Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in.
There we go. We are live, coming from the US of A, Doreen. Is that right?
Yes. I'm here in Boston at 7:30 in the morning.
I was just going to go with the time. Well done for getting up so early and being so bright and breezy as well. I've been up for ages, so I'm allowed to be bright and breezy. So yeah, welcome, Doreen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Fantastic. So the very first thing I ask everybody is just to give us a little bit of an introduction. So tell us who you are, what you do, please, Doreen.
Yes, so my name's Doreen Hing, and I'm the founder of Anatomical Intelligence Method, AIM, which is a bone hacking method, which teaches you how to study and use your skeletal system strategically. A little bit like a breathing course or something to to teach you how to use your breath properly and effectively, and use it in more profound ways than you would originally think about.
Yeah. So you do it all with bones.
I do it with bones.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be mind blowing, isn't it? Especially for me. No. So come on then. How on earth did we get into bone hacking, Doreen?
Well, I didn't know that I was bone hacking to begin with. What I did was discover that I could be able to teach people how to move differently. And it started with me doing this run where I went from 3 miles to 5 miles to 8 miles in a week. And I just kept reorganizing my body. And I didn't really realize until once I started to write this course that I was doing it at a bone level. But I was able to teach people this same process too. And so anytime I felt anything painful occurring, or I felt heaviness in my legs or out of breath, I changed my body internally from a bone level and was able to sustain that difference. You know, when you catch yourself and you correct yourself, it doesn't last for a long time. You sort of like, someone tells you to sit up straight, you sit up straight, and then you go and get a coffee cup, or you go and answer the phone, and then you just collapse and your bones drag you down. But if you do it from a structural level, like everything in the world that's created, or if it's rebuilt, you enhance the structural foundation and the architecture before you start building and adding anything to it. But we don't do that with the human body. We go in immediately and start strengthening and rebuilding muscles. We're probably told to realign and, correct the architecture, but we don't ever do it. And then you've built these bigger muscles around a compromised frame, and then you're asked to correct the frame afterwards, whereas you should correct the frame first and then build the muscles around it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this is going really deep. Just say hello to Pavel. Greetings to Boston and Sidmouth. Hi, Pavel. How are you? Pavel is a programmer. So maybe some of what he does with programming, he's setting up the foundations and stuff like that. And I think what you're saying there is, I've been playing tennis or I've been playing football and I'm aching a little bit. I'll go to the physiotherapist or a massage person and they'll give me a little rub and I feel better. But you're saying, hang on, stop. You need to go back a little bit and look at the bone. Is that right?
Yeah. And even for a massage therapist, those, therapies that are done to you, they're great in the moment and a few moments afterwards. But if they haven't used any bone technology or asked you to apply any bone technology during the massage, then it's not going to last for a long time. Or you can apply it if they don't have the information. If you had the information, you could apply it afterwards to sustain the expansion that they've created, or the release that they've created.
So how long have you been doing this, Doreen?
So I've been doing it on and off for maybe 10 years. I think when I first discovered it, I didn't really want to coach it. Because I like being a student. I always hoped somebody else would teach it, or that it would eventually show up in some course that I learned. But because of the dramatic results that I'm able to achieve, and B, that it didn't seem like anyone else was going to be teaching it in the near future. I was compelled to bring it out and create a course, and I started full on creating the course about a couple of years ago.
Okay, and so Hannah's just said, "No more pain." Sounds like a great song to me. And I guess there's an awful lot of people with a little bit of pain here and there. Maybe we're stuck at the computer too long and we've got an aching shoulder or an aching back. Maybe we've been for a walk at the weekend and our hips are aching a little bit. So this is for everybody then, Doreen?
Yes, everyone has bones.
Yes.
We carry them around. When most of us carry them around like a sack of potatoes, and you can see it in the way people sit and they stand. And even if I was to be on the phone call, like on the live like this, it's like everything is just draining down. So to correct myself from an architectural level, I can already just breathe better, never mind just look a little bit more respectable, like not like this. Hi Ashley.
So I'm standing as I do my live. Am I slouching here? You looking at me? You know, what are you seeing?
I don't see you slouching, because
that's all right.
Yeah, I don't see you slouching, but if you use your rib cage to hold you up a bit more, then your lungs are a bit more expansive, and there's a lot of fine tuning in there. But if you actually use your rib cage to hold you up, you'll stay more upright for longer, rather than your muscles. Because if you just ask your muscles to hold you up, then they also have to hold the bones up as well. And so it's a lot more sustainable. And then if you go to reach for something or do something else, your rib cage, you've intelligized your rib cage, and it will inform you for a bit longer than your muscles having to hold you up, as well as the bones as well. Does that make sense?
It does, but how do I tell my rib cage to hold me up? How does that work?
You just tell your rib cage you can just tell your rib cage to hold you up. Just say, rib cage, lift up, and you feel your back. But if you just like stand, just collapse, and then lift yourself up, and you go to that height, collapse, and then tell your rib cage to lift you up.
Rib cage, lift me up.
Did it lift up any higher? Just mentally put your mind to your rib cage and say, lift me up, and you should feel a bigger expansion, a higher lift than when you just sort of like had just came up from a muscle perspective. But there's a bit more. That was just like
sure. Because you run this course that we can sign up and get involved in, don't you?
Yeah, I do a course. I do a course, and typically it's to hack pain to begin with, but the system for hacking pain is also the system for creating optimized strength. And you see it in rehab. It's kind of a similar thing. But
So who are your ideal clients then? Is it somebody in pain, or is it an athlete that's at peak physical condition?
It's typically somebody in pain is like at the moment, currently people come to me when they're in chronic pain and they've tried everything, and they don't expect the results to occur so quickly. And so they're often quite skeptical. And I actually designed the course for grumpy old men. So, if I could get the technique, because it's deep internal body work, and most blokes and many women too don't want to do deep internal body work. They just want to lift and run and walk and carry groceries and not have to think about anything deep inside. And so, and a lot of those courses, it takes a long time, like yoga or qigong or meditation. That people are introducing those programs into those types of courses into their practices, but it takes a long time typically to master them. You go deeper and deeper into each course and deeper into the layers till you get to the core, and hopefully then you become some ninja feng shui.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, if we go, like, I have an Iyengar yoga practice, and we sort of like going into the layers, and but I'm saying if we start with the structural system, go straight to the bones and talk about the bones, teach you to understand and feel them, then all the other systems work more effortlessly, and we can start. And you hack that timeline to get to mastery of whichever movement practice that you are interested in.
So if you're thinking of peak physical performance, you're thinking of a Formula One racing car. Here's an analogy for you.
Yeah.
When they build that Formula One racing car, they start with the chassis, and they make sure that it's solid. And it's not going to bend, and it's going to hold the wheels on, and all the other things. And that's as far as I know about engineering. But what you're saying is fundamentally, we need to be looking after the building blocks before we do anything else. It's no good putting a fantastic engine or really good brakes on a chassis that's not built properly. And this is what you're helping us with.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest pains that you help with? Is it always the back, or have we got other things that we don't look after in our bodies?
Often it is the back, because our new foundation is our butt. It's not our feet. Our feet have become lazy because most of the time we sit on our butt, and so our butt to our knees is the new foundation, is our new feet, and then we just sit there and we don't learn how to operate and use our butt effectively as we sit. So then that affects our lower back, and then because of that, our feet are dead, and so then we get a lot of knee pain, because once we start using our feet and they slop around, because we don't know how to activate the bones in the feet so that they hold the whole frame up, then so it can be any part of the body, but the two main areas seem to be the lower back and the knees, but it can be for anything. I've helped people with asthma, and when you use your rib cage strategically, you can open up the lungs, so that if you sit like this and you have asthma, then you're going to have asthma, but even worse.
Yeah. But if you're stretching your rib cage properly, your lungs are breathing better. You're getting more oxygen into your system, and then the asthma disappears, or just becomes a little bit more manageable.
I've had people say that they use their inhaler less. So, and I guess depending on the severity of the asthma and how often you are proactively using your rib cage to enhance the organ function, then it's different for different people. So I don't know for sure if it'll get rid of it, but if you want a drug-free solution, then you can make your own chemicals. You can make your own biochemicals by adjusting your architecture. You can change the shape of your lungs, you can change the shape of your kidneys, you can change the shape of your digestive organs. So there's a lot of stuff. And for me, not only is it I see it as the first path or solution for movement education and rehab. And so I see it as when the doctor tells you to exercise, go and exercise. If he told you to exercise, but make sure it has a bone-informed practice, that would be a more beneficial way. And that's my goal, is to get it into that level of mainstream.
So our medical practitioners are actually using it and getting people to think more about their bones and their skeletons.
Yeah, because currently at the moment, when you think about using your skeletal system to help you move or rehab or help you with some pain, or it's really just a landmark. It's for you at the moment, it's just your elbow. It's not something that you can strategically, at the moment you currently don't think about using your humerus bone or your the bones in your femur or your forearm to help you with what's going on in your elbow. You're probably just doing reps.
Yep. I got some stretchy band things, so I'm using those.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I got a great comment here from Mario. Change the shape of your kidneys. You sound more like a designer than a coach. So yeah, I love that. So what's the go on, you were going to say something?
Well, I think the fact that I was originally a product designer, a shoe designer by trade, is by education, is why, I think in terms of changing shapes and designing and actually helping you redesign your body and to think of it creative, to be creative with your thinking, because that's my whole goal as well.
And so what sort of stories have you got where someone's come to you crippled in pain and now they're roller skating or something like that?
Roller skating. Well, when I did the 3 to 5 to 8 mile run in a week, I created a workshop. And because when I was sharing it with people that I did this run, they were like, "Oh, that sounds cool. That's just yoga." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing triangle whilst I'm running. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing headstand.
Stop every mile to do a downward dog.
Yeah, or headstand. No, I'm doing something differently." So I created a workshop, and all my test runners had, an amazing experience, as well as and because I didn't expect dramatic results, so some of the actual participants had surprising results too. So to begin with, a lot of the results are running related, but it does, for my own crazy knee surgery, it's interesting too. But for some of the participants for some of the test runners, like one of the test runners, she was training for her third marathon, Boston Marathon. And there's like these hills that no running coach could ever help her overcome. And she ran up them and she grimaced and she hated it. And she was always hangry when she did her hill training. And so she worked with me, and I just showed her how to use her rib cage when she's running. I just tested out 1 or 2 techniques with her. And she said that she found running the hills effortless, that she actually for the first time had a smile on her face, and that she was no longer hangry. And one of the other things that for hill training is that the runners often can't walk down stairs. They have to walk down backwards because they've so she was able to wear high heels, and because she had her daughter's wedding rehearsal or something. But and she told me that her run for the Boston Marathon was great, but I never actually, I'm not very good at collecting testimonials. But once I started doing this course, I asked her about it, and she said, yeah, it was great. I took 59 minutes off my Boston Marathon.
Wow.
I like, that's an hour. I'm not even
Yeah.
a running coach, And I was like, and so yeah, and then a participant from that first runners workshop, which I did, I checked in on her, and she said, oh, I was just checking in to see if I delivered a course well, and she said, oh, I just came to support you, and I was tapering down from training for a half marathon, and I was only running 2 or 3 miles because my knee hurt. And they said, oh, well, how was your run after the workshop? Oh, I think it was good. I did 11 miles. I'm like, what? Yeah, what, the next day? Because this is the next day. And she's like thinking it's good. I'm like, yesterday you're doing 2 or 3 miles, and today you're doing 11, and they're like wondering if it's any good. And I believe Hannah is in the live, and I was telling her about this, and she had back pain for ages, and I showed her how to use a technique around her spine. She was able to help. It was able to help her with her lower back pain. And I think the biggest thing about my course and my biomechanical tools is that once you learn them, yes, the educational part, you have to go and take time out to study and test out what I'm doing. But once you have learned them, you don't have to go and get your elastic bands. You can do them stealthily, and you can do them seamlessly whilst you're doing anything. And then you can do it for a static activity like downward dog, but you can also do it for dynamic activities like running or walking, and you don't have to interrupt what you're doing. So I call it like seamless or stealth techniques.
No, I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So what is your course? How do we get your course? What actually happens during this course then, Doreen?
So what happens during the course? Well, it's an online course. What happens during the course is I introduce to you several expansion tools, biomechanical expansion tools that you get to test on your issue. And part of the course is actually discussing and observing what is going on, and observing your traditional patterns and comparing them. And it's in that conversation with yourself and with your skeletal system, and then verbally with me, or if there are other members in the group, it's that group discussion that helps you critically think a little bit more about the tools that you are using. So typically the recovery, you see hope and you feel relief like within days. And what the cool part is the application for other things that keeps you wanting to practice the tools for other things. So, but it takes a while. Like any coaching course, it takes a while for it to become your habit. So that's why you need, yes, I can show you how to do, alleviate something very quickly, but then to actually maintain and use it and then think of using it for something completely unrelated to what you initially used it, it takes a little bit of time to develop that critical thinking and that analytical application of how to use it differently. But it's fun. I think what I wanted to do was make studying deep internal practices fun, because the results are quite instantaneous, and so it's like you get that dopamine hit really quickly, rather than when you sort of like, oh, like you want me to do a 5 pound bicep curl. Like, there's no dopamine hit there. It's like, when is this over? Can I do another? Is there not another exercise that's going to make me feel like I'm actually doing something for my elbow, or awesome. Feel
so you've got a webinar coming up, haven't you?
I have a webinar. Well, I have an online introduction to a webinar where you can learn more about it.
So that's what we need to be. That's what we need to be doing. So if you've got a link, drop that in. If you're listening on the podcast, that will be a link in the links there, so you can get hold of that. And then where can we find you, Doreen?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Love that platform.
Pardon?
I love that platform.
Your favorite platform. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm a little bit on Instagram. I'm not very much on Facebook. I know I need to use those platforms a little bit, but I'm here more on LinkedIn, more so.
Awesome. Well, we will find you on LinkedIn. This show's on LinkedIn, so you might be able to get it there. I've got one more question for you, but before we do that, I just want to pop into my show next week, because I've got Sally Curtis coming in. So she's coming in from Australia. So I haven't got a clue what sort of time of day she'll be playing with us, but she's coming in to tell us all about doing decent content. So something that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. So I got one more question for you, Doreen. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Learn communication skills.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start learning it till in my mid-40s, and I'm still learning and practicing it, even with you.
Oh, bless you. No, it's an important thing, and I think the youngsters today, because they're all on their phones and they're not communicating, it's very, very sound advice. I don't think anyone's ever said that one. So love that, Doreen. Doreen, thank you. You've been an absolute star today, teaching us all about bone hacking. Thank you very much to everybody for your comments, and I will be back next week. Doreen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye.
You get out what you put in, never gonna lose.